All right, what is up, guys? I am Howie. This is the Go Ride channel coming at you with another how-to. If everything goes okay in post, this should be Motovlog Volume 6. So what we're doing is how to repair cheap fiberglass motorcycle race fairings if you're an idiot and you crash like me. Now, there's a lot of videos on YouTube about doing like fiberglass bumpers, about doing sailboats, about even some car stuff. Not a lot of it is specific to race fairings, right? Or motorcycle fairings, right? There's a lot of stuff on the urethane. So I wanted to make a quick video to show you some of the nuances associated with doing a motorcycle fairing, right? Because the fiberglass, at least on mine, are a lot thinner. So some of the repair techniques are a little bit different than if you're doing a boat and you don't have access to the backside of the panel that you're fixing. So another thing I wanted to note is that a lot of this video was shot before I had the channel, before I really had an awareness of how bad audio is, right? And I'm working on it, right? I got my tie-clip microphone, hopefully got an external recorder running, and hopefully get better audio in the second half of this video. But just bear with me. I get it. It's pretty bad, but we want to go through it. What you are going to need material-wise is you're going to need, obviously, resin and the catalyst. Dynaglass, like a reinforced Bondo. Acetone solvent for cleaning. You'll need the actual cloth. This is just a weave that you get basically from like Home Depot. There's a local place called Tap Plastics here in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, that sells that kind of stuff as well. This is just like, I couldn't even tell you offhand what the weight is, but it's fairly generic. Sandpaper. As far as tools go, obviously you're going to want all the safety stuff. If you're using any power sanders, earplugs, gloves, mask, fiberglass sucks worse than asbestos, eye protection, long sleeve shirt is helpful. Tools, you're going to need a rotary tool with and I say a, but I really mean a ton of the little metal cutting discs that you get for the Dremels. Also very handy to have a power sander, makes things go a little faster. Screwdriver so you can get into everything. A rasp or a bastard cut file is going to be really helpful when we get to doing the Bondo. And then obviously a Bondo spatula. So probably forget something in this list of tools that you're going to need. Step one is going to be to go ahead and open up these cracks where I thought it was a good idea to try to ride my motorcycle on its side. Crack here, and then I'm also probably going to dress up the little crack there. Step 1 and 2 is going to be to open up the crack with the rotary tool and sand everything down at least to the gel coat, which this is what this is right here on this particular piece. It's not necessarily gray on yours, I don't know. Also, tip, anything that you don't want to get dust on, get it the hell away. So kind of your goal there is to get out any of the busted up glass. That's, you know, all the loose fibers and strands. You kind of want to get that cleared out. Something like this is going to be structurally repaired all from the back and then finished in body filler on the front. Okay, next step, and it doesn't necessarily have to be both in this order, is going to be to sand out this area down to gel coat, probably 5 or 6 inches around each of these repairs. Now to sand off the other side, so that way we can go ahead and get ready to lay the glass. So now that the area has been sanded out, this is really for 2 reasons. One is to kind of give it toothing. And the second is to kind of clean it. So we're going to go through with some acetone, and we're going to go ahead and clean up all the dust here. And we'll hit the other side and clean up all the dust there. You see kind of an old repair here that's delammed a little bit, which is probably because I didn't clean it well enough the first time. So do a little more sanding and a little more cleaning and be ready to go soon. So once you're at the point where everything's cool or clean, you can go ahead and cut a few strips of your actual fiberglass mat to match the repairs that you're going to make. And as I mentioned, you're going to want to go ahead and use sharp scissors. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a bunch of frayed ends and frustrated. Couple of things to note on the glass mat. This stuff, this being a regular 90-degree weave, is strong this way and it's strong this way. So in the absence of a structural part, getting heady with you, really it doesn't matter which way you lay it down. But what I'm going to try to do is lay it at like a 45-degree angle to itself. So that way, you know, it's strong this way, and then strong this way, and strong this way. When you start getting into carbon composites, funny weaves, it's not always necessarily the case. But this crap, consumer level crap, that's basically what you got. So you have strength in orthogonal directions. Give yourself a 45. So keep that in mind when you cut it, to go ahead and lay, to have it lay, one will lay this way and one will lay that way. And another pro tip, try to cut all this to be done at once. Depending on how warm it is where you are, you may have some time with the resin. You're going to want to be able to hit all of these because I've never seemed to be able to mix exactly how much I need. I always end up adding extra. On something like this, 2 layers is probably fine, but use your best judgment. And also something to note, on this edge repair, it's not, you don't even want to try to make an edge that's perfect. Leave it hang long. Go ahead, trim it later, and then we'll go ahead and seal the edge with some more resin. Next step is going to be to mix the resin. Read on the back of your thing how much resin and how much catalyst you need per however much you're going to mix up. Usually it's a certain number of drops per ounce. You can kind of adjust your proportioning based on temperature, but if you adjust it too much, you're just going to have unreacted resin or catalyst one way or the other, and then your repair is going to be sticky, and when you go to sand it, you're going to hate your life, and it's going to come off in chunks. So you need to stay within the mixing proportions on the container. Adding more catalyst will not necessarily make it go off faster. It may just mean that you'll have unreacted catalyst in your mixture, and again, sticky, and it's going to suck. When you go to mix it, mix with a stick, not a brush, because sometimes if you mix it with a brush, you get the bristles soak up stuff, and then you don't get the right proportion. For a repair like this, I'm probably going to mix up 3 or 4 ounces. I'm going to have way too much left over. Just about 3 ounces of this stuff. I believe it's 10 to 15 drops per ounce. We're going to put in about 45 drops. And I'm actually out, that's 35, so it should be enough. It may take a little more time. And when you do, and you get done, don't lay this down on anything you want to keep because it's going to get stuck to it. I don't care about my old sandpaper. So when you go through here and do your first thing, you're going to want to just paint on kind of a heavy coat, heavy-ish coat, because you don't want a ton of this resin going back through the cracks and ending up on the front side of the repair. It is fixable if that happens, but it kind of sucks and you're going to have to sand it off later. So get this stuff painted on. It's tacky. It kind of sucks. right? And then go ahead and lay your glass in there. And then when you get your glass in there, you kind of use a blotting motion to go ahead and push the resin into the fabric. And you'll notice, maybe a little bit difficult for you to see where you're positioned right now, but you'll notice this becomes transparent, or translucent and transparent, as the mesh itself becomes saturated. Don't worry about being too stingy, just try not to, like I said, have a bunch of this end up on the front side of the pin. Boom. Almost looks transparent. So in this, I'll then lay my next layer on and work in the same fashion. Just lightly tap this down. Work in the same fashion, go ahead and push resin all the way through this thing and down into basically the layer below it. And like I said, I'm working where these layers are kind of oriented at a 45-degree angle to one another to kind of, I guess, really just give myself some peace of mind that there's some sort there. Okay, so where we left off a while ago is we had just put the fiberglass mesh back on the backside and epoxied that in, or not epoxy, but use the resin system. Go ahead and put that together. At this time, we went ahead and cleaned up some of these boogers off screen. It's had plenty of time to cure out, so at this point we'll go ahead and fill it with some fiberglass reinforced body filler, which is, I'm using Dynaglass, but there are other options out there. So the first key to using this is you got to have a clean surface. So this will all get solvent wiped with acetone. The idea is just to get any of the dust out of here, the stuff to go ahead and adhere to. Got to mix the filler and hardener, and you want to mix, ideally with a better stick than this, not on cardboard. You start by stirring your filler, which this stuff smells great, by the way. Make sure you do this with plenty of airflow. You obviously, you don't need to mix that much, except you need to mix enough that you can actually handle it. The way to portion this correctly is you basically cut a little line down the center and then pour the cream hardener in there. You want to mix thoroughly in a way that you're not introducing a bunch of bubbles, and you'll mix to a uniform color. Using more hardener, again, doesn't make it go off faster after a point. It just means you'll have unreacted hardener, which will then in turn make your stuff sticky. You want to work reasonably quickly, especially if it's hot. This stuff will start going off, and then you'll have to mix more and peel it off your plate and fasten it on. So fairly uniform color. You want to just go ahead and push it into the cracks and spread it on the surface. You want to have enough that when you sand that little recess down, that you're at or above the level of the adjacent body. You don't necessarily want a ton there that it's going to cause problems for you. And you want to make sure you actually get it in that crack with as few bubbles as possible. Because if you have bubbles, you're going to be back here doing this again. Too much is not the worst thing in the world. This means you're going to have more sanding that you need to do later on down there. We'll let that cure for like 10, 15, 20 minutes until it starts packing. And then we can knock down some of these high spots with the half-round bastard or a rasp. And then once you've knocked all the ridges off, you kind of just got to let it cure the rest of the way, harden out, and then you can sand and feather it in. That'll die another day. Okay, Bondo has had an opportunity to completely cure. And now it's time to just start sanding. So where I am in the process right now is I've got the second coat of Bondo on our cracks, and now I just need to go ahead and sand it. Once I've done sanding the Bondo, I'm going to move through and sand the rest of the fairing. Then I'll get it hung, I'll get it tack cloth it, and then I'll go ahead tape off the Zeus fasteners. I'll tape off the Zeus fasteners, shoot it with a high build primer, block it down real quick, shoot it again with high build primer, block it probably a second time just real quick, and then I'll spray color on it. So with that, guys, I'm going to get to it. So at this point, I've gone ahead and I've knocked down all the Bondo, got that smooth. I'm going to go ahead and switch to a power DA and knock off as much of the old paint as I can. And then I'll just pre-block it real quick. I'll start with a 150, I'll move to a 220 and then to a 400 before doing the primer. There's a little bulge in the body right here that I'm going to hit by hand just so that way I don't put too much pressure on it with the DA. I'm going to very carefully hit the edges of it with the DA itself now. Alright guys, GoPro is dead, so filming this one on the phone, hopefully the quality is not too bad. Basically, at this point, I went ahead, blocked everything out, just real quickly, blew everything off with an air compressor to get as much dust off as I could. I solved it, wiped it with a little bit of acetone just to clean it up. And then I hit it with a tack rag, which is one of those rags that you it's like sticky cheesecloth. And then you go ahead and bunch it up and wipe it down. So I got everything taped up. I'm going to go ahead and shoot a couple of coats of primer, and then I'll get right back with you. Alright guys, things look a little bit different than they did the last time you saw the fairing. Unfortunately, did have the camera battery die last night. What I went ahead and did was I went ahead and finished blocking it out, shot 2 coats of primer, and then the black mist that you see is just spray paint. That's considered a guide coat, which basically I'm going to go ahead and block this fender again. And then when all of that black mist has disappeared, I know that I've hit all the parts of the fender or all the parts of the fairing. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. I'll spray 1 more coat of primer and then I'll move on to color. Starting with the 220, working in the same crosshatch pattern, and then I'll move up to 400. If you're doing like a dark gloss or a metallic paint, and you're chasing a really good result, you may want to step up to a 600. But I'm not a bodywork guru, so kind of take that for what it is. So this is kind of what guide coat will tell you is when you have low spots. Unfortunately, there's a bow in the bottom of this fairing, so there's not much I can do about it. Now I'm switching to 400 grit. Now again, if you wanted to show quality result, you'd take a lot more time to do this. You also wouldn't be sanding where you're spraying your paint because of the dust. But that's not really a luxury that I have. So I'm just about done blocking this out. Once I am, I'm going to go ahead and fire up my air compressor, blow off all the dust, hang it back up, tack it, and spray 1 more coat of primer. That is the first bead of sweat down the butt crack. All right, guys, just in the interest of total transparency, I've been shooting the fairing, and I realized I did not do a good enough job blocking out the guide coat, and there's been some dust. So I've got little spots, and they're hard to see maybe on the camera, of some rougher texture. So rather than going any further, I'm just going to go ahead and block it again, hopefully get that out, and then shoot it a second time. All right, guys, smoke detector's going off because the wife's trying to cook, but here's where we're at after reblocking it to get some of that, funny texture out that I wasn't too happy with. Got it sanded back down, went ahead and got it back in primer. Still not 100% perfect, but for what I'm doing, it'll be all right. All right, this is more or less the finished product. I've got one little run that I need to take care of on the other side, which I will do by sanding. And then when I unmask this, I'm going to have a little bit of touch up right around the Zeus fasteners. But yeah, this is pretty much where we're at. If you recall, we had cuts in the fairings, and I think a bunch of them were right in this area, and looks presentable. For what we're doing for a track bike or a race bike, this is pretty good. So with that, guys, go ahead, get out there, do this for yourself, go ride. Never, ever burp in the dust mask. Never do that.